Might SMU be more important to the ACC survival than we realize?
You are Locked On College Football, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth. Realignment, coaching carousel, the portal, that and more. We've always got you covered. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. We'll check in on an upset bid some people like, or upset potential that I just really don't think is there as much as some people believe. And USC and Ole Miss canceled a home and home. I have many thoughts on the matter. I have thoughts on SMU as well. So if you didn't see the headline that was flying around yesterday, SMU these are real numbers. These are real. By the way, the enrollment at SMU is fewer than 10,000 students. The boosters have raised a reported $159 million to get ready for its move to the ACC, which becomes official on July 1st. $159 million. I feel like John Mulaney in his stand-up Kid Gorgeous at Radio City Music Hall, when he keeps repeating $125,000, $159 million. Let me ask you something. If you are a fan of a particular team in the ACC, do you know if your school can suddenly come up with $159 million to pour into athletics? To make sure their facilities are on par, to fund their NIL collective, to pay their coaches, to retain their coaches, to give them raises and whatnot. I mean, 159. They're going into the ACC, remember, for an extended period of time, taking zero media rights distribution dollars. That's how badly they want to be there. And I think that could play an important role in keeping the ACC together. Here's why. The key to keeping the ACC alive, post FSU and Clemson, which I have long stated my belief that I think they are going to get out of the ACC and wind up in the Big Ten or the SEC. We'll see how that plays out. It's not a guarantee. That's just my suspicion. So let's say that happens. If you are Jim Phillips, you are suddenly going to the rest of your league members, most notably North Carolina and Miami, and you are on your hands and knees, pleading, begging, hoping, praying perhaps, that they don't leave, and that you can make a strong enough pitch, that you can maybe offer them an extra bit of money from the settlement that you'll get from FSU and Clemson leaving the conference, because it'll cost them $200 million each, and we don't know what those numbers will be. We'll have to wait for the settlement to figure itself out. But if you have SMU sitting there, could that be an appeal? Could that be a legit? Now, the timing could be important here, and I'll explain that in a moment. But if you're trying to pitch to the rest of the teams in the ACC that, hey, this is the place where you should be. North Carolina, Miami, you don't need to go to the Big Ten. Louisville, don't pick up the phone and answer when Brett Yormark from the Big 12 calls. This conference is still viable, and we are going to vie with the Big 12 to be a number 3 team. Having a foothold in Texas, however large, it's not huge right now. Who's to say it can't grow? You can't grow your footprint in Texas if you don't have a baby one there to begin with. You can't 2-putt for birdie if you don't hit the green in 2. You got to have the it doesn't guarantee that you're going to. You're 60 feet away from the hole. But gosh almighty, you have completed the first step. And you have a program that's just so all in. I don't remember the last time we saw a group of 5 team make the jump up to the power ranks and demonstrate this level of commitment. At least not that I am aware of. $159 million for athletics. That's a fat chunk of change. That doesn't just help keep them relevant in the ACC. That doesn't help keep them afloat and help them compete. In the long run, if your athletic department is funded at that sort of level, if you continue raising money like that, guess what? You're going to be one of the most well-funded organizations in the entire conference. So if you can pitch to Miami and North Carolina that, hey, we have this school over here coming into the conference that we think is going to be a real player in the college football world and that has a desire to do so, could that just be a little incentive? I don't think it's your primary pitch. I don't think the number one thing you say for Jim Phillips if FSU and Clemson leave and you're going to North Carolina, Miami, and you're saying, look, here's why you should stick around. We're going to strengthen our league because we've got SMU. Cal and Stanford, not big expectations there. But SMU has a sort of all-in mentality that I wish every college town would have. For those who don't know, I'm a play-by-play broadcaster at the low and mid-major level. And I see a lot of colleges and universities all over the place. And some have legitimate investment and buy-in. Financially, communally, fan support, it's all there. Not every place has that. But SMU does. So I think this season is really, really intriguing for Rhett Lashley and company. Because if they go into the ACC and they make noise immediately, which they're capable of doing, FanDuel's got their win total at 7.5. They're a new team to the conference. They've brought in a bevy of transfers. They didn't recruit in 2024 the high school ranks particularly well. I think that's smart. If you could only have one, you want players that are capable of playing at the Power 4 level and can go up against the teams that you're going to be facing on a weekly basis by the time you get into conference play. Of all the transfers they've added, only one is coming from a non-Power 4 school. And he was a 4-star offensive line recruit who started his career at East Carolina. That's what SMU's transfer portal class looks like. It's one of the 30 best in all of 35 best in all of college football. And they were a really good team last year. This team, by the way, the reigning American Athletic Conference champions. That's no small feat. That is a really high-end Group of 5 league. They lost the bowl game to Boston College because it turns out Jeff Hafley is not too bad of a football coach. But if SMU goes over that win total in year one, if they win 8 or 9 games, suddenly you will look at them in a different lens. Because do you think that this is going to be the best SMU could ever be? Because I don't. If they have this groundswell of support, if they have this level of financial backing, and they are capable of being a legitimate player in the ACC, you can help strengthen that league. You can say, hey, we're losing FSU and Clemson, but insert a school that is suddenly capable of winning a conference championship every year. Because at that point, without FSU and Clemson, what are you trying to do? Keep pace with or surpass the Big 12 to be the number 3 conference in college football. That's what you're trying to do. That's what you're trying to do, to get the most number of teams in the playoff, to build national championship caliber programs. SMU has that commitment. SMU has that sort of buy-in to where they want to make it happen, and they don't care what it costs. It is blank check. What do you need? Sure, we got it. We got everything you could possibly want and more. And so if you have a foothold in Texas, then you can make a dent, just like tiny dents here and there. Maybe pluck a recruit that Big 12 schools ordinarily would get, and they're like, he's going where? He's going to SM. Ah, man, that's the guy that we usually get. I'm not saying wholesale recruiting landscape changes are in store. What I am saying is that sort of financial backing in today's college football demonstrates a level of commitment that makes me think they could be one of the top 3 or 4 football programs in the ACC in the coming years. And if that is the case, you then list them as one of your top programs, and you look at the Big 12 and say, yeah, we're just not that far behind, because you're not losing FSU and Clemson to the Big 12. You're going to lose them to the Big 10 of the SEC if you lose them at all. So SMU, a very interesting player in this ACC landscape. Drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @McLaughlinCFB or at @LockedOn_CFB. There's a trendy upset pick in week 1. I don't buy it. I do buy that Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on that Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, so they've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time just takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You can save up to 60%. That's over half. I didn't major in math in college, but I could have. Save up to 60% buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you want. You can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. All sorts of ways to save. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's Locked On College, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Week 1, Thursday kickoff, August 29th, Boulder, Colorado. North Dakota State travels down from Fargo, maybe, possibly. Don't have that one off the top of my head. Down to Boulder to take on the Buffaloes. Bison and Buffaloes. This is kind of a trendy upset pick, or at least the conversation has taken place in which, well, you got to be scared about North Dakota State. And look, it is foolish for any program, let alone a rebuilding one, to schedule North Dakota State. I can hold that opinion and also hold the opinion that Colorado is going to be just fine here. They're going to be absolutely positively fine. The point spread, according to our friends at FanDuel, is Colorado minus 8.5. Now, for those who are unaware of why an FCS program has a point spread in Boulder of under 10, North Dakota State has historically been the Alabama of FCS football. If you go look at the national championship winners, they've been overtaken in the last couple of years by the back-to-back defending champs, South Dakota State, who traveled to Stillwater to play Oklahoma State this year. Good luck with that one. Good luck. Anyway, just thought I would mention that. If you go look at the national champions, there's a lot of North Dakota State in there. A couple of years ago, when Jed Fish was rebuilding Arizona, North Dakota State went into Tucson and almost beat Arizona. They did not. They did not beat them in that 2022 season. But boy, they were close. They were mighty close. And so, as a result, what I look at in this game is, okay, yeah, there's a possibility. Vegas is not setting that 8.5 point line for no reason. And when you see that line of 8.5 points, you can't look at it the same way you would in the NFL. College is different. You see more double-digit underdogs win outright in college football way more often than you do in the NFL. But I think that for Colorado, they are winning this game. And right now, put a gun to my head and make me have a selection here, I'd go Colorado minus 8.5. Because what's easy to forget about Colorado, there are two things. Number one, they were a better football team with Deion Sanders at the helm and Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. They're working in a new offensive coordinator, but still, of that magic trio I talk about regularly on the show, coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback, how many of those do you bring back can often determine, though not always, how much I like your team. You got two of them here. And better yet, those two are going into their third season together. So when you look at what Colorado is capable of doing here, they could blow the doors off North Dakota State. They could also run into some problems because North Dakota State, I don't know what their offseason moves have been. I talk college football on the show every single day. Can't say I dive into the FCS quite as much. I haven't really yet. This is the most I've mentioned them, to be honest. But I don't see Colorado losing this game because, number one, they were better than last year. Number two, they're going to be better this year. Vegas thinks so. Their preseason win total is 2 games higher than it was a year ago. I think so. I predicted them to go 3-9 last year. They went 4-8 instead. I've got them at 6-6, 7-5, and that sort of range right now. That sort of team is not losing to an FCS team at home. Now, last year, it wasn't FCS, but it felt like it because Oklahoma State was blasted off the field into oblivion by South Alabama. But even that was a Group 5 team, not an FCS team. And this Colorado team, here's a third thing that it's really easy to forget. They've lost a bunch of talent. They've added a bunch of talent. And they have addressed their weaknesses incredibly well. They have brought in players to Colorado that are of a certain caliber who would never consider North Dakota State unless they wanted to go be the absolute positive man even for the Bison, which have been a historically great FCS program. So You have guys that are coming over from various power institutions to play for Colorado this year. Their trenches game last year was atrocious. And that's going to be on full display because North Dakota State has been a power running team. They have been a power running team, and what could Colorado not do last year? They couldn't stop the run. They could not stop the run. But there have been a lot of transfers into this program on the defensive side of the ball. You know, guys like Ray and Buell who are coming over from Ohio, or Dayan Hayes from Pitt. Like, there are a lot of names. There are a lot of names. The BJ Green addition from Arizona State is probably my favorite one because I think BJ Green is a really well-rounded football player. I just look at what Colorado has, and there are so many options, so many guys that are available to play that weren't a season ago that I think are going to be better than what they had last year. So my data points on Colorado, I know for some it's hard to have a measured, reasoned conversation about the Buffs. I do my very best to accomplish that consistently, whatever the news story may be. Here's what we know. They were a better team last year when this core, Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and company, took over. So we know that there is something there. This is not the 2022 Colorado team. We also know that they have some key returners, and they also have brought in a lot of talent in a way that has addressed their needs. Now, their inability to stop the run last year was on full display in that game against Oregon. But if they have truly improved, if they have got guys that are actually going to make a tangible difference, you'll see it in this game. Because they will face run games this year that are less potent than what North Dakota State puts on the field year in and year out. And guess what? They're going to line up and they're going to play old school power football. It's going to look like their own version of Michigan or the Jim Harbaugh Stanford teams or Iowa or any team that just wants to line up and run power football. That's North Dakota State. They're not running all sorts of gimmicks and tricks. Nope, they are just going to run you over, or at least attempt to do so. And so that'll be the first thing that gets tested. Here's the second thing that gets tested in that game for Colorado: the offensive line. Because that was arguably worse than the defense last year. I don't know. I don't know. Colorado fans, you tell me in the comment section below, what was worse, the defense or the offensive line? Neither one was good. I expect both to be better. So when you have talented players on the perimeter, when you have an NFL caliber quarterback, what you then need to do is bulk up your team. Well, on paper, it looks like they've done that. So if you're capable of just being a 500 team, I don't expect you to have any problem with North Dakota State. And this is going to be an important game for Colorado. Don't make no mistake about it. And here's a narrative that I hope doesn't get pushed, because this would be incredibly dishonest. If going into the game, you hear buzz about Colorado upset alert, gotta watch out for North Dakota State. What if the Bison go in there and then Colorado beats them by 25? I don't want to see anybody flipping around and saying, well, they should have won the game. They're 8.5-point favorite. They covered the spread. Congratulations. Didn't win anything. Like, no, I'm just going into it with, yeah, could happen, but I'm not in that sort of mindset. Because Colorado has improved. And if you are an FBS team and you are on the upward trajectory, there's nothing any FCS team can do. There is a gap. That's just a reality. You know it. I know it. They know it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And Colorado, I think, has done enough on paper to make me believe they're not on serious upset alert there. And now that I've recorded this segment, you know what? I think they are going to cover that 8.5-point spread. Give me Colorado by like 17 points. And if they win that game by 17 points, it'll be a solid start to the year. Everybody will be watching. It'll be a Thursday. You'll have other FCS, FBS games, like Utah is going to play Southern Utah, but the eyeballs are going to be on Boulder, as they often are. I don't think they'll have any problem. I have a problem with something, sort of, kind of, possibly. You'll just have to, tune in. So USC and Ole Miss canceled a home and home they had on the books for their 2025 and 2026 seasons. And I'm not a fan of this. And it is emblematic of why college football desperately needs a governing structure. The control that individual schools and conferences have over their schedules does not create the maximum number of intriguing matchups. If you look at the week 1 slate for college football this year, there are a couple of big games, most notably Miami, Florida, and Texas A&M, Notre Dame, which is where College Game Day is going to be. I think that is a perfectly acceptable place to land because you got Notre Dame, you got a new head coach in College Station, Kyle Field's going to be rocking, 12th man will be, doing whatever cheers they do down there. They do all sorts of stuff, but you know what I'm talking about. So there are a couple good games. But on the whole, you got a lot of point spreads, according to FanDuel, that are 15, 15 and a half, 17, 20, 23, 38, 41. You got some big numbers on there. There are going to be plenty of blowouts. It'll be great to have college football back. There are going to be plenty of blowouts. That's just a reality. We have to accept it in the here and now. Hopefully there's an upset or two, just for those of us on the outside who want exciting games. But that's what my point here is on USC cancel. I don't think this is USC, being scared. All the reporting is that there was a mutual cancellation between USC and Ole Miss, and Ole Miss now has to add an FBS team for missing this game, and they've got Wake Forest on their schedule. Okay, back up. Part of the reason, reportedly, that they are going away from this home and home is that Lane Kiffin and company are looking at it going, yeah, they were already going to cancel this, and we're okay with that because we might be going to a 9-conference game slate over here in the SEC. To which I would say, if we had a college football commissioner and he was any good at his job whatsoever, every single conference at the Power 4 level, it's different when you're a group of 5, every single conference would play a 9-game conference slate, and every single team that wants to make the playoff will have a Power 4 opponent in its non-conference slate. One FCS to work out the kinks, one group of 5, because that exposure is important for them, and those games are fun, and it should be a win if your power conference team, whoever that may be, is operating at the level that they're supposed to, and one legitimate non-conference matchup because we like excitement. I am no fan of the NFLization of college football. I don't want it to just become NFL adjacent or NFL minor leagues. It's college football. Keep the sports separate. I will continue to enjoy both every single fall and continue to stand with Josh Pate and those who recognize that fall weddings should be illegal. If I ever became president of these United States, I would take 2 executive actions on my very first day. I believe the president even has the authority to do this. If you want a bunch of people to vote for you in this upcoming election, for those 2 candidates out there, just issue these 2 proclamations. Number 1, Labor Day is moving to be a 2-day holiday in the spring. The first 2 days of March Madness, Thursday, Friday, statistically the least productive work days in the country in the entire calendar year, understandably so. Those would both be federal holidays. That would be Labor Day, get a longer weekend and such. Kids would like you. You wouldn't have to be in school as much. Everybody wins there. The second thing that you would do if you were elected president of these United States is make sure that no one is allowed to have a wedding from the months of September through, let's just go January, because no one should have it there anyway. I mean, no one's going to have a winter wedding. If you're doing that, no one's going to go. September through December. Weddings on the weekends, out of bounds. Can have them on Wednesday if you'd like. My apologies to Maction, but fall weddings, get rid of them. They're a horrible idea. Do you know how many people are at a wedding that would like to enjoy the wedding, but if you schedule it on the day of Georgia, Florida, nobody in that fandom is going to care that you 2 are exchanging vows on the most important day of your entire life they are going to care that it's the one day a year that Georgia plays Florida. You're going to be married tomorrow, and hopefully every day after that for the rest of your life, there's only one day a year where Georgia plays Florida, or when Alabama plays Auburn, or when Ohio State plays Michigan. You just can't have weddings on these days. All right. Anyway, I didn't plan for that sidebar, but I'm kind of glad I was able to get that off my chest. So USC and Ole Miss cancel this. It makes inherent sense for USC. I don't come at this from an attacking USC perspective. I'm more attacking college football because every year USC to me doesn't have to have an opponent of this caliber because they play Notre Dame. They play Notre Dame every year. So if you've got Notre Dame on the schedule every year, we all know that's a power program. And if you play Notre Dame, boom, you have fulfilled Spencer McLaughlin's requirement of playing a legitimate power team on your non-conference slate. And so I have no objection there. But what's Ole Miss going to do? What is Ole Miss going to do? I just don't want to see them go in the direction of Michigan of years past. Now, I'll give credit to Michigan this year because they are playing Texas in their non-conference slate at home. I will still also criticize them for canceling the UCLA home and home, which led to games for the Bruins against something I honestly don't even remember. There was like a school in South Carolina. I can't even remember the name. That's how irrelevant of a game it was. And UCLA's non-conference was a joke. But Michigan hosting Texas this year, that's more like it. That's more like, because we as college football fans want to have great games, meaningful games, impactful games. We want to have as many as we can in the 12-team playoff in which the value of regular season games is already being chipped away at because you've expanded the playoff. At the very least, give us more games that have those direct playoff implications. So yeah, I would love for USC and Ole Miss to have continued this, but if neither one feels like they need to, which, by the way, they don't need to, because they can schedule things however they want. The NFL doesn't do that. The NFL schedule release is a big deal every year. And when schedules come out, they're a big deal in college football as well, because you don't get to pick your conference slate, but you can choose your non-conference opponents. Why do I know that Ole Miss is going to play Wake Forest in a couple years? Why do I know that? You can schedule home and homes and do it a year in advance. That's fine. That's fine. I have no problem with that. If you say, hey, let's you and I set up a home and home, whichever school we are, and we'll start it next year. Okay, I got no problem with that. Why do we have football games on the schedule in 2032, in 2034? What are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? College basketball gets this infinitely more right. They have the Big Ten SEC Challenge every year, or the ACC Big 12 Challenge, and they schedule things on an annual basis, and then they create all these high-profile matchups where you have ranked teams and tournament teams going at it in the preseason. And if you would just apply that same sort of logic, it wouldn't be the exact same in execution, but if you would apply that same sort of logic to college football, you could make the sport better. You could make schedules better, make it more exciting for fans, and give some element of consistency. However, you kind of need a college football commissioner or centralized governing body to do it, and tragically, the sport doesn't have that right now. But I will throw my hat into the ring. I don't know why this was a hat toss. There's a hat toss. I'll throw my hat in the ring for college football commissioner. I humbly accept your nomination, if you'll give it to me. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Until then, hope you have a great weekend, and as always, a wonderful rest of your day.